Everything changed for Aaron Miles the morning he opened his tired eyes and saw a woman standing in his dimly lit apartment kitchen, wearing his faded gray shirt. For a moment, he thought he was still dreaming, still trapped in the blurry world between exhaustion and reality. But when the woman slowly turned, the cold morning light touched her face, revealing none other than Eleanor Hart, the youngest and most feared CEO in the city, known for shutting down companies without blinking and firing employees with a single signature. Yet there she was, barefoot, her hair messy, her eyes soft, holding his son's cracked cereal bowl like she belonged there. And she said something that froze him completely, something he never expected from someone like her, something that would change everything he believed about life, kindness, and second chances. If you believe in kindness, in unexpected miracles, and in people who change our lives when we least expect it, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. It truly means the world to us. Aaron had never thought life would bring him to this point, a single father raising his 8-year-old son Noah in a tiny one-room apartment above a mechanic shop. After losing his wife to a sudden illness and being forced to quit his engineering degree to make ends meet, every day felt like a battle between survival and heartbreak. He worked late shifts as a janitor in one of the tallest glass towers downtown, a building filled with people wearing sharp suits and expensive perfumes, people who never looked at him long enough to see the exhaustion behind his forced smile. His life had become a cycle of mopping shiny floors at midnight, rushing home to cook cheap meals before dawn, and whispering promises to his son that better days were coming, even though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. The weight of unmet dreams pressed heavily on him, but he carried it silently, because Noah deserved a father who tried. Eleanor Hart was the last person he expected to cross paths with in any meaningful way. She was the kind of woman newspapers talked about, brilliant, cold, unstoppable. But behind her empire, no one knew about the loneliness she carried, about the nights she spent working until sunrise because she feared returning to an empty penthouse that echoed with memories she was trying to outrun. People saw her strength, but not the shattering cracks beneath it. And the night fate pushed her into Aaron's world, she wasn't a CEO. She was a woman who had broken down in a quiet corner of her office, overwhelmed by a breakup, exhaustion, and the crushing weight of expectations. Aaron had found her half asleep near the stairs while doing his cleaning rounds. He gently covered her with his jacket and carried her to the break room sofa, too kind to leave her alone on the cold tiles. When she jolted awake later, confused, embarrassed, and dizzy from exhaustion, the world outside was covered in heavy rain. With her driver gone and no taxis available, Aaron hesitated but offered her shelter in his apartment nearby, thinking only of her safety. He never imagined she would accept. When she woke up the next morning in his home wearing his shirt, borrowed because her clothes were drenched, something began to shift in the universe. She stood in his kitchen, looking at the quiet simplicity of his life, the hand-drawn pictures on the fridge, the single cracked plate, the little bed where Noah slept curled under a superhero blanket. And then she said something that froze Aaron's breath in his chest. She told him she had never felt more safe, more human, or more at peace than she felt in his small, imperfect home. She said his kindness reminded her of the world she had lost in her fight for success. She said his son made her smile in a way she thought she had forgotten how to. And she thanked him not like a CEO thanking a stranger, but like a woman who was touched deeply by something she didn't know she needed. Those words pierced straight into the heart of the man who had felt invisible for so long. The days that followed were nothing short of unexpected. Eleanor returned to her towering office, but something in her began to change. She started noticing things she had ignored for years: the tired security guards, the janitors working through the night, the assistants silently carrying stress heavier than their bags. Her once sharp voice softened when she addressed the employees. People whispered that the CEO had changed. Some said it was temporary. Others said she was growing weaker. But none of them knew the truth, that a single dad living in a tiny apartment had held up a mirror to her heart without even knowing it. For Aaron, the shift was just as profound. He found Eleanor dropping by sometimes under the excuse of checking on the building. She would sit with Noah, helping him with homework, laughing softly when he teased her about her inability to fold paper airplanes. Aaron watched her from the doorway sometimes, wondering how someone so powerful could blend into his world so effortlessly, almost like his home had been waiting for her warmth. She never treated him like a janitor. She talked to him like he mattered, like his thoughts and struggles were important. For the first time in years, Aaron began to feel seen, truly seen, but the world outside wasn't kind to stories like theirs. Rumors began spreading around the corporate tower. Some accused Aaron of manipulating Eleanor. Others accused her of being unprofessional. Noah started overhearing cruel whispers when she picked him up after school. Aaron began pulling away, afraid that his presence was damaging her reputation, afraid that he was becoming a burden she didn't deserve. He thought she needed someone equal to her world, someone with degrees, status, wealth. Not a man who spent his nights mopping floors and patching torn shoes. The breaking point came the night Aaron decided to resign from his job to protect her image. He didn't tell her at first. But fate, again, had a strange way of revealing truths. She found his resignation letter on the HR desk, neatly folded, signed with quiet pain. That night, she stormed into his apartment, not with anger, but with heartbreak trembling in her voice. She stood before him, breathless, reminding him of the morning she woke up in his shirt, of the peace she felt in his imperfect little home, of the way Noah had become a bright part of her life she could no longer imagine losing. She told him that she didn't want to be the CEO in his world, she wanted to be Eleanor, the woman who found comfort in his kindness. The conversation was raw, emotional, and filled with unspoken fears finally cracking open. Aaron confessed his insecurities, his lack of a degree, his small salary, his messy life. Eleanor told him none of that mattered, because compassion was worth more than any achievement she had ever earned. She told him she admired him, not for what he had, but for the way he carried his pain with quiet dignity. And for the first time, Aaron realized that maybe he wasn't the broken one after all. Maybe he was the anchor someone like her had been searching for. Life didn't transform overnight, but it began to shift beautifully. Eleanor quietly arranged a scholarship for Aaron to finish his engineering degree, never taking credit, allowing him to believe in himself again. He worked hard, studied late nights while Noah slept, and slowly started rebuilding the dream he once gave up. Eleanor spent more time with them, bringing warmth, color, and laughter that Aaron hadn't heard in years. She wasn't the CEO in those moments, she was simply a woman finding a family she never thought she could have. Their bond deepened quietly, naturally, without grand declarations, just shared dinners, gentle smiles, helping hands, and the kind of silent support that heals wounds deeper than words. Noah began calling her his Sunshine Lady, and she carried that nickname like a treasure. As months passed, people around the city began noticing a new Eleanor, softer, more human, more grounded. And no one realized it was because of a janitor who showed her that love, in its purest form, didn't care about status or power. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories to life. Please comment and tell us your thoughts. Every word means so much to us. In the end, Aaron woke up one morning months later, sunlight warming his face, and saw Eleanor again in his kitchen wearing his shirt, not out of desperation this time, but out of belonging. She smiled softly, Noah hugged her half asleep, and Aaron realized this was no longer a strange twist of fate. It was home. It was healing. It was a reminder that sometimes the people who look the strongest are the ones most in need of gentle hands. And sometimes life brings us exactly who we need, in the most unexpected ways, in the quietest moments, in the places where kindness still exists. And that morning, when she whispered that she never wanted to wake up anywhere else again, Aaron felt the weight of years lift from his chest. The janitor and the CEO, two broken worlds, stitched together by compassion, had finally found a reason to believe in second chances.